Well, good evening. Welcome to Stab the Dragon for whiskey review number 12. This evening's whiskey is a break from my Fort Worth whiskey series because today, December 7th, is the anniversary of Pearl Harbor, so it's time to do a military whiskey review. I've done 3 other military whiskey reviews so far. There's 1835 Straight Bourbon from North Texas Distillers, Hooten Young American Whiskey from Master Sergeant U.S. Army Delta Team retired Norm Hooten of Black Hawk Down fame. And both of these whiskeys I did in the first week of October of this year to remember the Battle of Mogadishu, fought October 3rd and 4th, 1992, and the Battle of Gonzales, October 2nd, 1835 in Texas at the beginning of the Texas Revolution. And then just a few weeks ago on Veterans Day, I did Leadslinger's Rye. Leadslinger's is owned by Army Ranger veteran Matt Best, also owner of the Black Rifle Coffee Company. And of these 3 whiskeys, Leadslinger's was probably my favorite. Hooten Young was very good too, but it's twice the price of Leadslinger's. I'll return next week, Lord willing, to continue the Fort Worth, North Texas whiskey series. My plan is to wrap up that Fort Worth series sometime in January of 2022, and then maybe start a double elimination tournament to rank those whiskeys that I've been examining. However, on or around important historical dates of military significance, I will break into whatever series I'm doing and review a military whiskey. And my definition of a military whiskey is a whiskey that is made or owned by a veteran, or has a name on the whiskey that points us to a military date or theme. So far, all the military whiskeys in my collection are American, with one Irish exception. I could hope there would be some Scotch whiskeys out there with a military connection, but I doubt I could afford them. Tonight, I'm going to review 10th Mountain Rye Whiskey for the anniversary of the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, December 7, 1941. For my whiskey reviews, I always start with an evaluation of the history of the whiskey and the distillery, and perhaps a little bit of the history of what the whiskey is named for. Because I like to do a little bit of background study of, the Army unit or the military unit that's involved, or perhaps the battle, the year that's involved there. So let's, and in all my whiskey reviews, I start with the history. So here we go. History of the 10th Mountain Whiskey and Spirit Company out of Vail, Colorado. This company was established in 2014 by Ryan Thompson. In one interview that I read, Stephen Jacobs, Director of Sales and Distribution, is himself a 10th Mountain Division veteran. So a couple of things related to the geography around Vail, Colorado, which may affect their whiskey. Their altitude is over 8,000 feet, and they use pure Rocky Mountain snow melt water in making their whiskey. Along with their altitude comes the temperature changes. They can vary as much as 40 to 50 degrees a day from sunrise to late afternoon in that cool, thin mountain air. This distillery is very active in veterans affairs, donating to over 20 charities that have veteran ties, some that are local to them, like VFW Post 4600, one that I have personally participated with, and that's the National Infantry Museum in Columbus, Georgia, my wife's hometown. And then also the Fort Drum Volunteer Support Fund. Fort Drum, New York is where the current 10th Mountain Light Infantry Division is located. They support the 4th Infantry organization because the 4th Infantry Division is now based in Colorado. But let's ask the question, why does this whiskey company name themselves after the 10th Mountain Division if the 10th is in New York and the 4th Division is in Colorado? The U.S. Army has a terrible habit of moving Army units all over the country, deactivating units at times, and then years later bringing them back to active duty. So there's a lot of Army history that's needed here to understand why this whiskey company is called 10th Mountain. And so, being Pearl Harbor Day, World War II history is called for. The 10th Mountain Division was formed in Colorado during World War II, specifically to send them to Europe and fight in the mountains. Mountain warfare requires a very specific set of skills that are very different from fighting in other geographic regions. Camp Hale was constructed in 1942 to start training the men who joined the 10th Mountain, and that's only about 20 miles from Vail. In recruiting for this mountain division, the Army was smart. They advertised for men familiar with mountains and skiing. The Army knew about the German mountain troops from World War I and World War II. General Erwin Rommel was a member of an Alpine division in World War I. In January 1945, the American 10th Mountain Division deployed from the United States to Italy and then proceeded to fight in the Apennine Mountains of Italy until Germany surrendered in May. So 114 days of constant combat. The division lost 992 men killed in action, 4,154 wounded. It was a brutal war in the mountains of Italy. After the war, the surviving veterans came home and founded over 62 ski resorts. They started ski schools, ski magazines, and kick-started cities like Vail and Aspen, Colorado. The GI generation and veterans of the 10th Mountain Division started a winter sports boom in America. And now, in their honor, the 10th Mountain Whiskey Company is producing some very fine whiskeys. So for history, I award this whiskey 4 out of 5 points. Let's talk about marketing and packaging. I've seen some internet ads for this whiskey. That's how I got the idea for it. It's not sold locally, so I did not see it in any liquor stores. Then I started researching it, and I found some reviews, went to the company website, and proceeded to order the Rye Whiskey. Even though it's the bourbon that is usually advertised and reviewed, the bourbon has, I think, probably the better looking bottle and label, but the Rye label is also pretty cool, and the bottle comes with a dog tag right there. So that's pretty awesome. The Rye bottle is clear glass, as you saw, and it's round, tall, and skinny. It reminds me of the High West whiskeys, their bottles. It's got a plastic cap and a rubber stopper. The label has got the 10th Mountain horizontal here at the top, and then bigger letters there. It's got the Rye Whiskey right there. There's a couple of skis right here. You can see those vertical marks. Those are skis, which is pretty cool. And then you've got a soldier down here in red carrying skis over his shoulder right there, and a rifle. And then mountains in the background there. And then at the very bottom below the soldier, it's got, well, let's see, the label says aged in new oak barrels for 1 year, and that is framed by 2 sets of the ski poles that I showed you. And then it says a product of 10th Mountain Whiskey and Spirit Company. There's a verse on the side, from mountain to shining shore, by freedom they always swore. Though death did not cheat 'em, they bestowed us a freedom and a whiskey worth fighting for. And at the bottom below the soldiers, where it says Vail, Colorado, 86 proof, 43% alcohol by volume. And then get this, it says altitude 8,150, 750 milliliters, high rye. The back label has the barcode and the legal warning, but also this: 10th Mountain Whiskey Company proudly supports VailVeteransProgram.org and WarAngelConcerts.org. So for marketing and packaging, I give this a 4 out of 5 points because it's really a very informative bottle and very cool. The dog tag is exceptional touch there, so 4 out of 5 points. The composition of this whiskey. The bottle says it's high rye, and then it also has a little thing there that says aged for 1 year at 8,150 feet altitude. The website says it's a 70% rye, the rest is corn and barley. So that's a reasonably transparent and informative amount of information there. I think including the altitude, though, is exceptional. That's just a nice touch. One reviewer I read, though, lists the mash bill as 75% rye, 21% corn, and 4% barley. So that contradicts what the website says. And I've noticed this about some reviews. I don't know where some reviewers get their information, but time and again, I have seen reviewers give a mash bill, and then I find out from the company at their website that they've got something else listed as a mash bill. So I'm not sure who's telling what, where they're getting the information, but you just have to be careful that and sometimes companies don't give a mash bill, and I can understand that in that they want to keep their proprietary information secret, but for the sake of clarity, transparency, openness, I think revealing your mash bill is kind of an important thing. One interview that I read talks about the temperature swings around Vail that can be as much as 50 degrees in a day regularly. They talk about using that Rocky Mountain snowmelt water. So all of this affects what goes in the bottle. So for this level of honesty, transparency, and coolness, the whole altitude thing, I'm going to say 13 out of 15 points for composition. Physical appearance of this whiskey. The color is a moderate amber. This is not an exceptionally light whiskey, but neither is it something dark like a Balcones whiskey. It's got decent legs, so it's it's a decent looking rye whiskey for just being 1 year old. I think that's a good looking whiskey. So 3 out of 5 points for physical appearance. Nose. On the nose, and I wish my nose worked, but my nose is worthless. I do get just a hint of rye spice here, a little bit of the floral. So it's a pleasant nose. There's nothing untoward or offensive. Just a hint of that generic whiskey smell. I will say, in comparing this to Lead Slingers, that Lead Slingers had a much more pronounced floral nose. But nonetheless, 7 out of 10 for the nose. Give it the benefit of the doubt, since I really can't smell much. Taste. This really is the first rye whiskey where I've actually tasted the rye bread flavor. And that was really on my very first glass. I don't get that as much now, but when I first opened the bottle a few months ago, that first taste, really the rye bread flavor came through. Now the rye spice flavor that you get a little bit on the nose, that's very prevalent. Okay, so you've got a nice, good rye spice flavor coming off of this glass. Very, very good. It's very floral. Reminds me a lot of the Lead Slingers rye, but it's a little bit more spicy. So this is it's not as spicy as maybe 1776 rye, but this is more, it's got more of a kick to it than the Lead Slingers. You know, Lead Slingers is a 90 proof, and this is 86. The spice quotient here is definitely stronger, but it's still easy sipping for sure. It's very smooth. to me, this is an excellent, really an amazing rye. I really like the flavor on this because you get a lot of that rye flavor, but also a little bit of the kick. So I'm going to say 23 out of 25 on the taste. It's got some sweetness to it, but not, one of the reasons I like ryes is they're just not as sweet as the bourbons. And, but that doesn't mean I don't like the sweet. There's a sweetness here. And the rye spice is consistent all the way through with a little bit of a spicy kick. Now, what about the mouthfeel and the finish? This is not a thin whiskey at all. It's about average for oiliness and mouthfeel. Finish, it's also kind of middle of the pack. It's not a real strong, long finish, but neither does it pull a disappearing act. There's a slight burn with this one. We'll get up in your sinuses just a little bit, and just a little bit down the throat. No Kentucky hug, though. and the burn kind of depends on how you drink it. I'm learning that what you do with your mouth and your tongue, how long you hold the whiskey in there, that all affects the feel. It affects the burn. So, it just depends on how you drink it, how you swallow it. But I will say the finish on the Lead Slingers rye was longer, but this one's got more of a burn. So, you get different things with different whiskeys. This one does punch above its weight. It's an 86 proof, but it really punches heavier than the Lead Slingers at 90 proof. And they're both really smooth. I personally tend to prefer a bit of a burn, even a strong burn. I was just raised eating jalapenos and chili piquin peppers. So, hot, spicy food is where I'm at. And I like my whiskeys to have a little bit of spice to it as well. So for a rye, this is a very nice spicy rye. I mean, this is not like 1776. It's not like Old Overholt. This is much more of the rye flavor coming out here and not near as much of a kick. So I'm going to give the mouthfeel and finish a 13 out of 15. Let's talk about price, value, and availability. Now, on the website where I ordered this whiskey from, it was listed as $45. So that's what I paid for the whiskey. But I had to pay for shipping, right? They had to ship it to Fort Worth from Colorado. So that's about close to another $20. So that puts this at over $60. Was it worth it? Yes. But for subjective reasons, not just the whiskey. I collect military-related whiskeys. That's a thing with me. Obviously, I'm a veteran. I really wanted this one as soon as I saw it advertised. And actually, I really wanted the bourbon, but because I'm a rye guy, I was fine getting the rye. But the bourbon bottle was actually nicer. Okay, so that's what I wanted. But, that was also more money, definitely. Bourbon, I think, was, $10 or $15 more. So, oof. And then after they shipped it, of course, it came when I wasn't home. It came when my wife was home, so she had to sign for the bottle, which didn't go over well. So there you go. And I actually ordered this whiskey in the summer because I wanted to review it for the anniversary of Black Hawk Down back in October. But then I was in Speck's liquor store one day and saw the Hooten Young whiskey, which I had seen advertised. And so I got that, and I did that one for the anniversary of Black Hawk Down. So I did Lead Slingers on Veterans Day. So I saved this one for today, Pearl Harbor Day. The whiskey is quite good. The bottle is cool. The whole idea behind 10th Mountain Whiskey, their company is great. The organizations and charities they support are wonderful. So for me, the money was worth it. Definitely. and I hope to buy the bourbon next year. So, you know, I support veteran-oriented things, and that's what 10th Mountain Rye or 10th Mountain Whiskey Company is all about. So definitely for value, I'm going to say 8 out of 10. Emphasis on the value because availability is nil here in my area. Well, the next question is this good to drink neat, or is it a mixture? 98% of my whiskeys I drink neat. I prefer neat. And so this is outstanding neat. This is a great dram for sure. But because of the strength of the rye flavor here, I'm saying that for you guys who like rye whiskey in your cocktails, this would be a great choice, because even at 86, it kicks a little bit higher than 86. I think this would be fantastic in a cocktail, definitely. So 5 out of 5 for is it a neat or mixer drink. Final category is bonus points, up to 5 points, and I'm giving this a 5 out of 5 because the veterans, they support the history, the main idea of this whiskey. I mean, for somebody like me, this whiskey was just fantastic. Now, if I can just find a Fort Lewis 9th ID whiskey, boy, that would, you know, be wonderful for me. So a total score here for this whiskey on my scale is 85. And my numerical score is really pretty tough. So I'm going to give it a letter grade of A-. Recommendation. Who would I recommend this whiskey for? If you love ryes, then this is a wonderful product that you should try, if it's available in your stores locally. To ship it like I did, man, it's going to cost you that extra 20 bucks. However, if you're like me and you've got a thing for the military theme or veteran-related whiskeys, and you're a rye guy or gal, then this whiskey is worth the extra money, hands down. I believe in the 10th Mountain Whiskey Company and what they're trying to do, so I take that into consideration. I think the bottle is cool. If you've got a 10th Mountain Division vet in your circle or family or active duty, and they like rye whiskeys, this would be a great gift or a great whiskey to sit around and share while you swap stories. So cheers. That's just a good whiskey, definitely. Well, that does it for Stab the Dragon tonight. We're going to sign out now, and we'll talk to you next week.